About to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's be free with Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, die with my own doubts. Be free.
Good evening, everyone. It's Jim here at Tutor Chew, and it's our 7th AQA A-Level Sociology Live Revision Blast. And this week we thought we'd get a couple of new presenters in to freshen things up a bit, given this is a challenging topic, beliefs. Introducing, on my left, Craig, and in the middle, Duncan. How are you doing, guys?
Oh, really well, thank you.
Long time no see.
It's been ages, hasn't it?
Those of you who are
Absolutely.
watching live tonight can be guaranteed that tonight's session will finish just before 8 o'clock. And the reason for that is that Liverpool are playing tonight in is it the Europa Cup or the Fairs Cup? Something like that, Craig, isn't it? So Craig will move heaven and earth to make sure that, that's like a beliefs gag, isn't it? Heaven and earth to get this session finished by 8. So, Duncan, what are we covering tonight? And then let's crack on. Let's get on with the session.
Okay, great. So we're going to be covering quite a few aspects of the beliefs topic, beliefs in society, and there'll be a wide range of activities looking at that. If you haven't joined us before, to engage with the activities, if you can type into the chat window, we can see those comments and we can respond to those as we see them. Sometimes it might just be A, B, C, or D. Other times we might ask you to type a bit more. We'll explain the activities as they come up. And I think we'll start with a picture quiz from Craig. Craig, is he muted?
Craig, do you want to unmute yourself, mate? And then we'll do the picture quiz.
Yeah, it's just, so maybe somebody else should unmute me. Sorry, in the picture quiz, so like what we're going to do is you're going to see six phrases sort of like that link in with different parts of the belief spec, particularly sort of like linked in with specific ideas. And what we want you to do is we want you to name the different theories. We want you to name the different theorists who've mentioned these phrases. There's lots of lovely kind of very descriptive phrases that come across in the beliefs specification. And so we're going to look at our first one, which is believing without belonging. Who came up with the concept of believing without belonging? Which sociologist? If we put the name in the the chat box on the right-hand side, who said believing without belonging? Which theorist?
Oh, some people.
And it is classic me. It is classic me. Yeah, it's the second time this week I've forgot to unmute, and I did it in a live lesson in college as well. So yeah, having a good week. Okay, so lots of people saying Davy, and those people would be correct. It is Grace Davy.
Well done.
Very good. Nice interview with Grace. Nice interview with Grace Davy on one of the BSA's websites as well that you could look at. As we answer each question, so like we will remove a piece of the puzzle to show you a picture of a famous sociologist in beliefs. So there's our first piece. We can see that the person has very short hair and wears glasses. Any guesses on who this is?
It's quite early for a guess, isn't it? We can't even see if he's got the...
we can't even see, but let's have a go. Our next phrase is the sacred and the profane. It's not Jurgen Klopp. The sacred and the profane. Who sort of like said the beliefs were about the sacred and the profane? The religion is about the sacred and the profane. Okay, so we're getting a couple of ideas coming through. Durkheim.
I was going to say, is anyone going to do it without a question mark? And they have done now a few without question marks.
Durkheim. It was Emil Durkheim who talked about the sacred and the profane. Let's reveal our next piece of the puzzle. Oh, it's a sociologist with a beard. Yay.
And it's not me.
It's a sociologist with a beard. And it's not Duncan. And it's not me either. If you can guess who the image is at this point, maybe not. We may need to get this next one. This next one should be pretty straightforward. Religion is the opium of the people. Who suggested that religion is the opium of the people? Often sort of like paraphrased, the opium of the masses.
Very famous quote. Yeah, if you come through.
We've got Abigail and Unicorn Lover. Sophie, we've all come through with Marx. And you're correct. It is Karl Marx. It's a very famous statement. Let's reveal a little bit of the middle piece. Okay. Any ideas on who our mystery sociologist is? It's Karl.
It is.
No, it's not Karl.
It is
Karl Marx. Is it? It's not Marx. I've given Marx a 2020 makeover. Yeah. Okay. Our next phrase is, and I really like this kind of phrase as a description of beliefs. Jesus in Disneyland. Who came up with the idea of Jesus in Disneyland?
It was like an Easter parade. Yeah, there was an Easter parade. There was an Easter parade in Disneyland, and it was this idea of the sort of clash of the religious in this very sort of not religious scenario situation. Oh, people are pretty close to it there. Yeah,
yeah. I think it was just a caps lock thing there.
It was a caps lock scenario.
It was David Lyon. Yes, Disneyfication. Yep, we could link that in there as well. Another piece. The person's it's got a very symmetrical head because it's exactly the same as the other side. The Protestant work ethic. Which sociologist came up with the idea of the Protestant work ethic? This is a nice. This should be well known. This one. Which
another very famous
about the Protestant work ethic? It is. That's right, Sophia. It is Weber. And Damien thinks it is Steve Bruce. Okay, I can't see a Newcastle kit, but never mind. And spiritual shopping. It is Weber. Spiritual shopping. Who came up with the concept of spiritual shopping? And this is one I've not been looking forward to all day because I'll just give you a clue. They're French. And if you know anything about these sessions, you know that my pronunciation of French names is not good. So I've been practicing this one today just in case. So who came up with the concept of spiritual shopping?
Any ideas? Ooh.
Oh, well done, Amber. It could be interesting. Amber, you are correct. Louise, you are correct. It is Danielle Hervieux Leger. Is that right?
Oh, sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty good.
It sounds pretty good.
Well,
I know you're pretty up on your pronunciation of sort of French sociologists, Dunk. You know, whereas I'm not that good at it. I think it's the accent. But Hervé Leger, that's right. Yep, that's a good one. Okay, so thank you very much. Who is the image? Who is the image? We have had somebody mention the image already. I was very tempted to put a Newcastle kit on this person.
The joke would have been lost on me, I have to say.
Really?
Yeah, it
is Steve Bruce. That's right, Steve Bruce, the famous sociologist and part-time manager at Newcastle United. Okay, let's move on to Duncan next.
Yeah, Steve Bruce might come up again later. You never know. Okay, we've got this activity here called On Balance, and we're going to ask questions, basically arguments in favour and arguments against a view. And we'll start with the arguments in favour of the view that society today is becoming more secular. Now, this is a huge debate. We're only looking for 2 arguments on each side, but I think you'd be able to come up with lots of them. I'm sure you'll be able to come up with loads of arguments on both sides. But if we look first of all for arguments in favour of the view that society today is becoming more secular, what evidence could we present for that? What arguments could we put forward to suggest that society is becoming more secular? If you want to type a few ideas into the chat window, we'll see what you come up with. Obviously, I've come up with a couple for each side, but you know, just scratching the surface. Really, there's so much you could talk about. Fewer people getting married, fewer people attending church, rationalization, decline in church attendance, more divorce. So lots of good ideas there, and some nice little synoptic links to families there. Location of religion, perhaps. We might maybe come back to that one because that's quite an interesting one, perhaps more for the other side of the view. More cohabiting, family diversity, globalization, interesting. Technological worldview, Bruce. I said we might come back to Steve Bruce, didn't I? Science. Shall we have a look at some arguments in favour? You've come up with some really good ones. So I agreed with you on Bruce, technological worldview and low church attendance, but loads of others got there. Removing Bible verses from Travelodge. Were there Bible verses in the Travelodge? Anyway, so that's great. Yeah, loads of good answers coming through there. Really impressive. So shall we consider the other side of the arguments then? What arguments might there be to suggest that society isn't becoming more secular? Because on the face of it, that seems a very convincing argument, doesn't it? I mean, I think it's probably you can't really question that the UK is more secular today than it was 50, 60 years ago, 100 years ago. So how could we make some arguments on the other side of this equation? People still are marrying, okay, yeah. What else? Concept of believing without belonging. Thanks, Sienna. Yeah, so looking back again to Craig's first activity, Grace Davey, that people might believe in God without necessarily belonging to a church. New Age beliefs. Okay, different religions. Religion is moving rather than disappearing. Where's it moving to? That's an interesting one. More on New Age. People seeking greater meaning in life during lockdown. Yeah. Still higher levels of marriage. There's been a lot of talk about football tonight, and I suppose when we think about religion, a sort of functional definition of religion, it doesn't necessarily have to involve the supernatural. People might have beliefs in other things. Globalization and a global idea about religion. There's loads of really good ideas coming through here. What could we, because you're talking about things happening in other parts of the world, what could we say about the argument that society is becoming more secular? What term could we use to kind of criticize that view? There's a good term that we could use based on the fact that you're saying that there's still quite a lot of religious belief in other countries and elsewhere in the world when we look at globalization. Any other thoughts? Okay, Esme's giving some good arguments in favour of society becoming more secular. Yes, and more good evidence of that in terms of Sunday school and baptism. But what about this other side? Oh, Sophie said it's Eurocentric, and that's really good. Yes, and that's slightly different from the one I use, but it's absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely right. Let's have a look at my arguments against, which do link with yours. No, don't worry, Yasmin. It was great. We can have more arguments. So resacralization. This is the idea that maybe people are becoming more religious, and people touched on that in various points in the chat window about New Age movements and maybe people looking for greater meaning in life in this very difficult situation. I said it was an ethnocentric view, absolutely a Eurocentric view. It's basically Western Europe that's become more secular in other parts of the world. It may not have done at all. In fact, you could say that religion is growing in globally as a global phenomenon. More people have become religious and Christocentric. So yeah, it's a comment about Christianity specifically in Western Europe, isn't it? There's a growth in Islam and other religions. Very strong growth in Hinduism in India at the moment. So yeah, it's interesting. So well done, really good responses there, and it's great for us to have that sort of debate because that's a classic essay question. You could easily get a question like that, and we've basically planned it between us here. So well done. Okay, I'm going to hand back over to Craig now for a categorise activity.
Thank you, Duncan. I've remembered to unmute this time, so I'm 1 for 1 at the moment. Okay. One of the kind of key debates, one of the debates within the beliefs is particularly about New Age religions, is the idea of whether something is a cult or a sect. Okay, and this is often something that is quite confused between students, is the idea of cults and sects. And I've got to be very careful how I say this. I don't want to speak too fast. Two very tricky words. So what I want you to do in this, sorry, Duncan,
I was just going to say this is particularly the kind of typology put forward by Wallace, isn't it? I think in terms of separating between different types of new religious movements, separating between cults and sects.
That's right. Yep. It is. Thank you, Duncan. And what I would like you to do is there is 8 characteristics of either a cult or a sect there. And what I would like you to do is to organize those characteristics of a cult or a sect into the appropriate column. Okay, so what I would like you to do is put up in the chat box, put cult, and then put the numbers, and then put sect, and then put the numbers in there as well. Okay, so the timer is going to start now. There you go. So we've got some coming through already.
Few people asking about not really being sure of the definitions. I think that's fair enough. One thing I would say is probably what we might in popular culture and popular understanding tend to think of as a cult is much more like what Wallace thinks of as a sect. I'll just put that out there for when you're thinking about
that's
where you might put some
pretty much the point I was going to make, is that often people think that something is a cult, but actually it's a sect. So we've got some responses here. So sect 8, the idea of charismatic leaders. Sect 85421 from Amber. Okay, that's a good some good responses in there. Number 7 is a cult, according to Layla. Holly, sect number 6. Okay, let's look at the right answers. There were some really good answers. Amber, you were very, very close there. So let's look at the responses. So a cult tends to be highly individualistic. So people tend to be highly individualistic within a cult. They are loosely organized around a set of shared beliefs. They tend to be led by an individual practitioner, not necessarily a charismatic leader, as you would see in a sect, but an individual practitioner. And they don't demand strong commitment. So some of these ideas that we see about cults on television, where people go and live in a commune and give up all their worldly possessions, aren't accurate. Okay, that's more likely to be a sect. They tend to be small, exclusive groups. They have a higher level of commitment. They also are more likely to have charismatic leaders and are hostile to wider society. So our answers there, 6537 for a cult, and 1 for 8 and 2 for a sect.
Yeah, excellent. So
And
it's
sorry,
yeah. Sorry. Oh, I'm back on. So got a word activity for you now. We're calling it altered vowels. There's some key phrases, key terms from the beliefs topic, and we've swapped the vowels for different ones, so the words look weird. Now, there's two things you can do here. One is solve the word puzzle and come up with what those terms are and those key terms are. But just as important is to either give an example of one or a short definition. And if you're not great at the word puzzles, because not everyone's great at solving word puzzles, you might well be the absolute number one best at giving the definition or the brief explanation. So have a go at either or both bits of the activity. So let's have a look at the first one. Holastak Malawawo. I can't pronounce it, but what do you think this could be? What key term from the beliefs topic could well be there if those vowels were different vowels? So if each of the vowels was a different vowel, what term might there be there? What do we reckon? I might start giving clues in a moment. Any thoughts? Oh, Sophia's come in. Even though it's bedtime soon, she's come in very quickly with holistic milieu, which is very impressive and is the right answer. Does anyone want to say either what that means, what the holistic milieu is, or which study it might relate to, which piece of research it might relate to? Any ideas? Either a quick definition or link it to a study, a sociologist or two. Helas and Woodhead. Thanks, Sophie. Well done. Yeah, the Kendall project. Oh, well done, Sienna. Yeah, some really good responses there. Absolutely. So Helas and Woodhead, when they studied Kendall, found that people, although they were leaving the congregational milieu, which was churches, they were instead getting involved with kind of new age type practices. What Wallace would have described as cults, kind of yoga and things like that, and crystal healing and things like that. Okay, next one. Selvetian Penuk. Any ideas? Selvetian Penuk. I might give you a clue quicker with this one, unless someone gets it very fast, because it isn't Selvetian Penuk. I don't actually know what that would mean. Maybe think Weber. Maybe Sophie's got there again. Very well done. Salvation Panic. Well done. It links with. Well, I've given you Weber, but can anyone add to that? Well done, Abigail. Yeah, Salvation Panic. Anyone want to say where that fits in to any of the ideas we've talked about? Why does Weber talk about salvation panic? Where does that fit in? Any ideas? Who's he talking about? So Craig earlier mentioned about the Protestant work ethic, this idea that, perhaps Calvinist Protestant religions. Oh, Esme was learning about Weber today. Very good. That you worry that you won't be saved. There's the idea that it was predestined who was going to heaven, and people kind of panicked about it. Yeah, well done. People are coming to there. Relates to Calvinism. Brilliant, it does. Weber suggests that perhaps that was one of the things that led to people kind of creating capitalism and starting to, following that sort of work ethic, because they were panicking about whether they'd go to heaven because of predestination. Very good. Well done. Let's have a look at the next one. Labyrinthine theology. Any ideas? Labyrinthine theology. Oh, yeah. Sophia's on fire. Anyone else get it? Oh, and Sienna as well. Very good. Well done. Liberation theology. Sophie, well done. Brilliant. Liberation theology. Can anyone give me maybe a example of liberation theology, or where it links in, what it's got to do with Yeah, well done, Louise. Well done, Holly. Any examples or who it might relate to, or anything else on that one? So we tend to talk about it in relation to Marxism and neo-Marxism, the idea that religion can actually bring about social change rather than always being against social change. And it's to do with Catholics in Latin America. Oh, and well, Sophie's brilliant there, talking about Maduro and organic intellectuals. Brilliant, very good stuff. Yeah, and about sort of the role of the church in some of the kind of radical movements in Latin America in the 70s and 80s, fighting against the kind of fascist regimes that were in place. Excellent stuff. And absolutely, it can be used to criticise traditional Marxist views. Well done, Sophia. And I think this might be the last of the altered vowels. If it isn't, I apologise for that. I shouldn't have said so, just in case it isn't. Oa Dunco Calt. I reckon the last word's probably the easiest one to work out. The other one's got an awful lot of vowels in it, hasn't it? Yeah, Holly, it is something cult, isn't it? So can we think about the different types of cults that have been identified? There's a particular type of cult with a lot of vowels. Give you a clue, it starts with an A. Okay. It relates to quite a broad definition of cults. And cult, yeah, it could be. It is audience cult. Okay. Oh, well done, Jade. Well done, Sophie. Yeah, see, I know people getting it there. Oh, quite a few of you getting it. Sorry, I shouldn't have given it away. I should have had more faith you were going to get it. Audience cult. Well done. Very good. And so that's a type of cult where it's more like kind of buying a product essentially, rather than necessarily being a member of something.
I thought you were going to say an audience cult is like. I thought you were going to say an audience cult is like sort of like our following on YouTube. You know.
Yeah, well, I think it is a little bit like that. The goats. Yeah. Okay. We've got a few 30-second challenges quickly as well. So let's have a look at this one. These are quite open-ended questions where I'm asking for quite a few possible answers for it. Why are working class people more likely to be religious? Chucked out. Is John there? I don't know if we're on screen. I think we. Hello. Can people type if they can hear me? All right. Sorry about that. I got caught off there. They hide their pain of oppression from Unicorn Lover. Sorry if other people, I've probably missed some other suggestions there. I do apologise if that's the case. Okay, shall we have a look at what I suggested? Apologise if I missed some brilliant suggestions there. Oh, you can hear now. Great. Yeah, we're back. Oh, thanks, Louise. Don't know what happened then. Okay, theodicy of disprivilege, religious compensators. Yeah, Sienna cope with their exploitation. That links with that idea of sort of compensators for, because people might be disprivileged. Yeah, Holly, it did glitch. Yeah, it was being compensated for by, you'd be rewarded in the next life. That kind of idea. Spiritual gin, which was Lenin who talked about. Religion, a bit similar idea to the opium of the masses. Might give people financial or social support through religion, a sense of belonging. Okay, that kind of thing. Okay, the next one. Why are women more likely to be religious than men? If they are, we're not having that debate, but if they are, why that might be more the case? Let's start the timer. What do you reckon? Any ideas? Some of them might be the same. People having trouble again.
I don't know whether there's just a slight delay on the thingy, and that's
okay. Well, yeah. Patriarchy, control, brilliant. Cope with patriarchy. Excellent, very good. Some good responses there. Any others before we? It's in their nature, for control. Close to religion, giving birth to a child, very good. Yeah, so expressive role, socialization, be a carer, that kind of thing. Marginalization, deprivation, so some of the same compensators, some of the same issues we talked about in relation to social class could come into gender as well. There's a suggestion that from Woodhead, religion's been sort of feminization of religion, or Bruce, I think. Need a kind of savior to compensate for their oppression. Okay, socialized to be more passive and obedient, Rebecca. Yeah, that's a really good one. So lots of possibilities for these. Again, you could have full essays on some of these issues, become closer to, things like giving birth and also caring for the elderly. I mean, people closer to some of these sort of big questions that people perhaps look more to religion in those situations. Okay, and the last one of these, why are some minority ethnic groups more religious than the majority? What do we think? Any ideas? Again, talked about Bruce earlier, didn't we? Could maybe bring him in. Well done, Sophie. Very good. So we're still answering the gender one. Yeah, marginalization, cultural defense, and cultural transition, which is really good. People's upbringing, coping with marginalization. Yeah, really good. Should we have a look at some of the suggestions that I had? Cultural defense and cultural transition. So well done. That's brilliant. Sense of belonging, sense of identity. But absolutely some of the points about, it's the same points again, really, about compensators and theodicy of disprivilege can be relevant, but you do need to make that link if you're going to do it. Really good. Very good. Okay, I'm going to hand back to Craig now.
Thank you, Duncan. This is our last activity today. On the screen, you'll see 9 reasons for changes that link into beliefs in society. Which of these reasons are used to explain the growing secularization of society? So which of those 9 reasons? I will tell you that there is one that has been a little bit contentious between myself and Duncan, but we will discuss that at the end as to whether or not which it can be used at both sides. So what I would like you to do is to write in the text box on the right-hand side which of those 9 reasons that are on the screen are used to explain the growing secularization of society. So if you just pick those reasons and put them in, which of those 9? Can we come and teach at your college? You never know. And I think I can fit in like a Thursday afternoon at this point. Okay, so Sienna has got cultural diversity, rationalization, globalization, disenchantment, privatization, and not sure about individualism. Individualism, religious consumerism, disenchantment, and rationalization. Okay, from Amber.
If you don't want to type too much, you can just like kind of do 2A or something if you want to get an answer in quick.
Yeah, A1 to B2. So Sophie's gone for 3C, which is rationalization, 2B, cultural diversity, and 2A, which is disenchantment. Louise has gone for rationalization as well. Okay, globalization, the interconnectedness of the world, wide and deep interconnection, leads to an increase in online religion.
Okay, so would that lead to growing secularization or the opposite?
Yeah, people aren't practicing religion. Okay, so we've got some good responses there. There's a couple of people who've pretty much got most of them. Let's have a look at the correct answers, and we'll tell you the answer that's a little bit contentious, we should say, because it can go both ways. Of course, we've got individualism, the idea that people are becoming more individualistic and no longer guided by the morality of the church. Disenchantment, which is obviously one of Weber's ideas, that people have lost the mysticism of religion. Cultural diversity can be a reason for growing secularization in society. privatization. This links into this idea of stratified diffusion, where people start to sort of like look to the private sector to fulfill the functions of religion, as opposed to going to church to do so, and rationalization, which was another one of Weber's. Now, if you put globalization, we would credit that, wouldn't we? I mean, globalization, one of the arguments that we sort of like say about globalization is increasing the amount of fundamentalism. So it may not be directly a cause of secularization, but Duncan, you had a reason why globalization would decrease secularization.
Decrease religion and increase secularization. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm getting confused.
It's the sort of question you might get two impacts that globalization might have had on religious belief, and you could have one, it might increase it, and the other, it might decrease it. And so that's quite a handy thing to think about. So, for example, but through globalization, we learn more about other religions in the world, and that could undermine the plausibility of religion, because if religions claim a monopoly of the truth, this is the one true religion, and then you find that there are lots of other religions that say the same, that in turn might make people think, well, actually, maybe none of it's true. And also, globalization can lead to the spread of scientific ideas and technological worldview and that kind of thing through global media and things like that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can.
I mean, I think sorry, go on.
So as I say, so you can argue it either way, because I mean, the fundamentalism argument is that it's kind of a reaction to globalization. It's on Giddens and a couple of other people talk about that.
Yeah, and the idea that sort of like obviously it's cultural defense and it's a response to global imperialism, and that's why we have the growth of fundamentalism. And you can also have this argument that, well, globalization has led to the deindustrialization of religion, and that then links into these ideas of sort of like New Age religions and people picking and choosing sort of like the religion rather than going to a specific church or specific system of beliefs. But there's some really good responses there. Some people sort of got 4 or 5 of those pretty much straight away, which was really, really impressive. I think that question is, what are the reasons for secularization of society is very, is one of those that could come up as an essay, and picking 4 or 5 reasons out pretty quickly is really, really good. So I'll hand back to you now, Duncan.
Okay, I'm back to Jim.
I think we're done.
Yeah.
Great session, and bang on time as well. We've covered a lot there.
Perfect.
Fantastic answers in the chat window. I mean, the team were on fire tonight. I mean, I was just looking how quickly they were typing the answers in.
That was great stuff.
Challenging topic, I guess, isn't it? So it's not easy.
Yeah, it is definitely challenging. Yeah, if you've enjoyed it and you found it useful, click the thumbs up button and click the little bell to subscribe if you want to find out about more of these sessions.
Have we decided what next week's session's about yet, Craig, Duncan? Are we still in discussions with the powers that be? What do we think?
I think we're going to head back to education. We looked at education first, but we only looked at couple of aspects of education, so we're going to broaden that out a bit more, look at some more education. So first and second years can enjoy that one.
Cool.
And then we might have a look at some of the more niche optional topics after that. We've had a few requests for global development, so might have a look at that. Yeah. Okay.
Global development.
So it's education next week, but it won't be at this time. It'll be earlier, won't it? Because this week it's a slightly later time, just on a one-off. So we'll be either 4:30 or 5:30.
Yeah. Back to drive time next week. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, look, thanks for everyone who's tuned in tonight for the live stream. YouTube tried to throw us off, but we managed to get back. So it's like glitch there just for a few seconds. Really appreciate you logging in and participating so actively and so well in the chat window. And hopefully we'll see you next week. So cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Bye.